If you're nosy, this is the video for you. Today we're talking about money. We're going to be looking at my social work salary history through the time that I've been a social worker, some pay transparency, a little bit of the ins and outs of finances in social work, and we're also going to go through a realistic updated payday routine. My paychecks are different than the last times that I've done this in ways that we'll discuss when we get there. I did some thinking while planning this video of why pay transparency is important to me, because I always think that it is. It's important to be transparent about pay, and I mean, I share a lot of my life on here, and I always think too, like, what's the reason for this? Sharing aspects like pay and like salary. Some reasons why pay transparency is important is because it provides a benchmark to other social workers or even aspiring social workers. By sharing what I have earned at different stages and what I earn now, it can help people advocate for their own selves by knowing the market rate and what a going rate for a social worker is. It turns a guessing game into an informed conversation. Now, obviously there are differences between different areas and different costs of living, and salaries often reflect that. What someone makes in the rural Midwest is not going to be the same as what someone makes in New York City, for example, or in California, for example. I think that is part of a reason why I like to enter myself into the conversation too, is lots of times I will see social work salaries that seem very high that are like New York City, California, and it doesn't always feel relevant to me necessarily because I don't live there. And so my pay is going to be smaller. And so I think adding in like extra people around different locations is beneficial to the overall conversation. Another reason pay transparency is important is that many students or career changers worry that they won't be able to support themselves in social work. People may have a passion for it and may have the strengths that match for it, but are worried that they won't be able to fund the life they want with a career in social work. And so while I cannot answer that question for you, I cannot answer if your future career in social work will fund the life that you want exactly, showing actual numbers can provide a realistic salary trajectory so that people's decisions can be better informed. Pay transparency can help people plan their lives, like understanding at what point in their career they may make a certain amount, which is important for many big decisions. Another reason that pay transparency is important to me is that I do feel it builds trust between me and you. It's so easy to feel so separate from people that you see online, and that can be true for a lot of people. Like, there are people obviously that are online and have unrealistic or just like unreachable lives that are not similar to ours, which serves its own purpose. But I hope videos like this one, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, and if you're not, you could become one. I hope that videos like this can remind you that, like, quite literally, I'm a regular little person and we are in this together. Transparency is one of the most effective tools for closing pay gaps. When salaries are public or are shared openly, it becomes much harder for systemic inequities to stay hidden. By speaking up and sharing, you can contribute to a culture where everyone in the field is valued fairly. So all of that being said, I want to go beyond just the current salary talk and go through different jobs that I've had through my career trajectory and what I have made at those times. Something that may be a little bit unique, I don't know, maybe it's common. Every single one of my jobs that I've had has been hourly. I've never had a salary job. I know this is less relevant, but just for fun, the very first job that I had was being a bagger and then a checker at Hy-Vee grocery store in Columbia, Missouri. And if I remember correctly, my starting rate there was $9 an hour. And I made my way up to either $9.25 or $9.50 an hour, which was like very good money at that time in high school. Like 2016 high school job making $9.50 an hour was crazy. My college service job that I was in, I worked at a juice bar, and at that time I made $8 an hour and made my way up to $9 an hour. So it was a pay cut, but I had started out really good at 16. And then if you remember from the very early days of my channel, I also used to work at a desk at Pres 1, a dorm at the University of Alabama, and there I made $7.75 an hour. Technically the rate was $7.25 an hour, but I got night shift upcharge because I worked from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. every weekday. Unfortunately, I cannot speak much on BSW only jobs and BSW only salaries because I did in fact go straight into my master's programs. I never had a job with just my BSW. I never had a social work job with just my BSW. I did work as a preschool teacher the summer between undergrad and grad school, where I made $13 an hour. In grad school, I was an online instructor for the Princeton Review, teaching ACT and SAT courses, and there I believe I started around $20 an hour, which was the most I'd ever made at that point, and I ended around $30 an hour. They had like a market increase while I was there, and I think I got a couple like performance bonuses too, to where I ended at $30 an hour. That was very high. It was not a full-time job. It was like my extra little side gig through grad school and into the time that I had started my social work job. My very first social work job post-grad, I had my MSW and was not yet licensed at that point, but I was a social services provider for the Department of Juvenile Justice for the state government. Now, state government salaries are public. Like if you were to go on a job listing, it's public. And the position I was in, I believe its last raise actually was in 2017. There were other reasons why I left, but pay was not a reason why I was staying, that's for sure. That job job made $25 an hour, and I was officially hired into a role that was 29 hours per week. However, in the time that I worked there, they had vacancies in which they needed extra help, and so I worked up to 39 hours a week for $25 an hour. If you are someone who works more in yearly salaries to have your range, working for $25 an hour for a year is a $52,000 salary, if full-time. After the job at Juvie, I then moved into my current position, which is a pediatric medical social worker, and when I was hired, the offer that I was given was $26.46 an hour. I should have done all this math beforehand, but for people who work in yearly salaries, that would be $55,000 a year, which was not a lot of increase, not as much increase as I thought it would be from my state government position. However, I did negotiate to $27.46, which was an extra dollar, which I feel proud of myself for doing. And also, I still didn't know like what I was worth necessarily. I really, really wanted that job, and I think that can be a hard part when you negotiate, is the fact that I had more on the line than they did. Like, I really wanted the job. So we just went back and forth once. They came back with a counter, and I said, yep, sounds good. And so my starting rate there was $27.46, which is about $57,000 per year. And that was in 2023. In 2024, I got my annual merit raise, plus also they did a market adjustment at that time to ensure that they were paying competitively compared to like other hospitals in the area. The amount that I increased with that market adjustment makes me think I really should have negotiated higher for my starting rate, but that is in the past. With that raise, I went to $31.65 an hour, which is about a $66,000 annual salary. Since then, in 2025, I got another merit increase that took me to $32.60 an hour, which is about $68,000 a year. And then I got my LCSW, which came with a promotion to Social Worker 2 and a 5% raise, which brings me now currently sitting at $34.23 an hour, about a $71,000 annual salary for the people whose brains work that way. I obviously hope that this just keeps increasing, and at this point with the LCSW, I am back under what a market rate would be around other hospitals, so I am hopeful that in the future that can be rectified. But at this point, I have found a good balance of enjoying where I'm at and enjoying what I'm doing and paying my bills. But I obviously hope that my current self could become a little closer to what other places pay. Obviously, I am just like one piece of a very large puzzle of what is possible to make, and it so depends on geographical area, on area of the field, and on like who you work for and what you're doing. There are a few, but not many, hidden costs with social work, just like costs that come up. In order to get licensed, there are costs that are associated. Exams cost a couple $100s, and usually an application fee costs about $100 or $200 as well, whether for your associates or for your clinical license. And then once you are licensed, each state has a different requirement about how many CEUs you need to have, and CEUs can cost you. There are free CEUs if you look for them, and I, in the time that I've needed CEUs to renew my license, have never had to pay for CEUs. Like, I've been able to find enough free ones that I haven't had to pay for them, but that is something to note, is that sometimes CEUs can cost. I think if there's like a really great CEU that would be really beneficial to you but cost, like that's typically whenever people are paying for them. I am also lucky enough that like I get quite a few CEUs that are just like ingrained into my workday and into my institution, that then the extra spaces that I need to fill, I'm able to with the free ones that I find. Those things are good to ask just to know whenever you are interviewing or thinking of employers to work for, is that some employers do provide help for exam costs, licensing fees, maybe CEU fees. It's a good thing to know about and to ask about whenever you are picking where you would like to work. Looking at questions that you have asked me regarding finances, I pulled a few from comments just to make sure that I can answer and provide good information that you're asking for. So someone asked, how many years of education did it take me to get to where I am? I have both undergrad and a master's degree. For me personally, I completed my undergrad in 3 years. I fit all 4 years worth of classes that I needed to take into the 3 years. I had some AP credits coming in, and then I also did a lot of summer classes. And so I was able to complete my 4-year degree in 3 years. And then I went into my MSW program, which was advanced standing, which means that it was 1 year, because since I got my bachelor's of social work, I was able to do advanced standing MSW and just do 1 year. If you have your bachelor's in anything else, then an MSW would take 2 full-time years. Did I use financial aid or take out loans for my MSW? I figure I might as well answer this for both degrees. For my BSW, or in total, spoiler, I did not have to take out loans, which I feel so grateful for. For my BSW, I got a full ride to the University of Alabama. Tuition, room, board, there's even some stipends involved, which was incredible and is the reason why I went to that school. And so then for my MSW, the account of money that was gifted to me by family in preparation for my education was enough to cover that grad year, that 1 year of grad school. And so I did not have to use financial aid or take out loans. I did apply for lots of scholarships for my MSW to help with that cost, and I didn't get any. I got a couple scholarships from like some of the other schools that I had applied to and gotten into, but they still, even with scholarship, were just very expensive, such as Columbia University. But that answers that. What jobs can you get with just a BSW? There are jobs out there that you can get with just a BSW. You do not have to have your master's, but I would say that in social work, a master's is more of the gold standard. Like, you will not be missing out on opportunities if you have your master's and then eventually get your LCSW. When you have your LCSW, like, the world is your oyster. You can do anything. Obviously, the higher up you climb, the more opportunity you have. So BSW jobs may be more entry-level positions, or just, it really just depends on what it is. Because you can also get a job with your BSW that maybe is not like social worker in the job title, but uses your social work skills, and like you are a great competitive candidate for because of your background in social work. But sometimes it does take searching, and sometimes it does take looking beyond just like searching social work job and then seeing what comes up, because often what will come up when you're searching social worker are jobs that require like a master's. It may take finding agencies that you're interested in, seeing what jobs they're hiring for, and seeing like which of those you qualify for and could do a great job at as a social worker. Some of these are social work, some of these are like finance. Just wanted to run them out. Do I use credit cards? Yes, I use credit cards for almost every single purchase, and then I pay it off each month. I treat my credit card like a debit card so that I build good credit score and that I can get the perks associated with my credit card, but I'm not going into credit card debt, because if I cannot afford something, if the money is not in my bank account, then I'm not putting it on my credit card. Have I thought about working fewer hours now that I have my LCSW? No, because number one, there's like nothing else taking up my time. Like, as a dink, dual income, no kids, I feel okay working 40 hours and making 40 hours worth of money. Also, the 5% raise is not enough that I could like drop hours and still feel comfortable. I would like to still be climbing at this point, so I'm still working full time. What are my priorities with finances at this point? Really mostly saving, but with a little bit of flexibility. For instance, we went to Spain this month, and so I'm not saving as much this month because we went to Spain. Like, what I would have been saving this month went to Spain, and I feel so good and so great about that. But overall, just living below means so that then I can save, so that whether it's like a house in the future, or I've always heard from people that kids are expensive, and so it'd be good to have like a good savings in my head. I just want savings at this point. So with all of that being said, what does an actual paycheck or payday look like in my current role with my current salary? The paycheck that I pulled today is one of the ones where I was in Spain for a week, and so out of the 2 weeks that would be 80 hours worked, I only worked 41.75, and the other week was PTO entirely. So with those hours worked, 1.75 of that is overtime, which would be time and a half, making my gross pay be $2,828.27. For the first time ever since I've done any of these videos, I do have pre-tax deductions now. I turned 26 this year, and my husband turned 26 too. So we now both have insurance through my employer. He is a student, so he doesn't have his own employer to get insurance through. So we are both on mine. For benefits, I get dental, medical, and vision. And we also now have a health savings account. We chose a high deductible insurance plan, which has made sense for us this year. It's been the best choice. And so with that, we get to open a health savings account. And so some money from my employer just like goes into the health savings account, which I think is pretty common. I'm not super well versed in health savings accounts. I have heard, you're gonna have to look more into this than me because I'm not gonna be able to explain it well. I have heard that health savings accounts are triple tax advantaged, and I forget now what the third is, but you put money into it pre-tax. I think it grows without being taxed, and then when you use money from your health savings account, it's not taxed too. I think that might be the triple health advantaged, or triple tax advantaged. See, I don't know what I'm talking about. Look further into that. Don't take my word for that part of things. But as of right now, I'm sending $50 from each paycheck to our HSA, which leads the pre-tax deductions to be $227.69. So that comes out of the gross before the tax is taken out. And then next comes the tax. The different forms of taxes that I pay from each paycheck are OASDI, Medicare, federal withholding, and then Georgia state tax. All of these together are $542.69. But don't worry, the money is not yet hitting my account. We do pre-tax, we do tax, and then we do post-tax deductions. So my post-tax deduction right now, this has been the same for a while. I actually think that I have hit a year making this contribution, which I'm very proud of, because this is something that felt really good whenever I was doing it, but I thought that I wouldn't be able to maintain it for that long. And so far it's still been good, but as I mentioned with all the savings and everything, like, we're really trying to set ourselves up well right now in our 20s and use these years so well. I'm very aggressively saving for my retirement right now because I would like to hit a point point where I do not have to invest anymore in order to have a nice retirement. Like, I could, but I already have a good amount to retire. That's a bit of our goal. And so right now I am making my retirement contributions to my account post-tax, which is called a Roth contribution, and it is 10%. And so that is $282.83 from my paycheck that is going into my retirement account. Of that, I get 4% matched, which is $113.14 from my employer, free money that then goes into my account. If you have a match, make sure to use it because it is quite literally free money. So now that we've done our pre-tax, tax, and post-tax deductions, the actual number that hits my bank account is $1,775.06. There are a few other things that I get. There's the employer paid benefits, which are things like short-term disability, employee assistance program, FMLA administration, and then I also get PTO. So I get 5.232 hours of PTO per paycheck. In this pay period, it reduced by 40 and then I accrued 5. So as of right now, I have 142 hours sitting in my PTO bank, which is awesome, and I can't wait to see all of the places that is able to get used. All that being said, I hope that this video was beneficial to you. What's your biggest takeaway from everything I talked about today? Make sure to subscribe before you go, become a channel member if you would like early access to videos, as well as getting to vote on some videos that I make. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you next time.